Hi, my name is Paul Hutton, and I am the Director of Regenerative Design at Cunningham. My presentation is about regenerative design and the circular economy. I'd like to mention a few things about my company first. We are organized in 5 studios. We are 54 years old. We have 280 employees, and we are in 7 United States offices. We offer architecture, interior design, urban design, and landscape architecture. We have a strong set of mission, vision, and values. I especially like 2 of them that I'll highlight right here: the healthy world and restore the earth. Cunningham had an office in Beijing for many years, and I have been to visit China many times. My first visit was as a juror for the solar decathlon in Datong in 2013. That was a lot of fun. I also worked with the Architecture 2030 organization and was proud that Cunningham signed their China Accord in 2015. In 2016, I was with Architecture 2030 again for the workshop on designing net zero buildings in Wuhan. Cunningham has designed many projects in China. I'd like to show you just a few of them quickly. This is the Anying Camp Dark Sky. This is our Changsha Flying Theater. And this is the Harbin City Center, which was very interesting because it included an indoor ski hill. Sustainability was first clearly defined by the Brundtland Report of the UN in 1987. It stated this: sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In my opinion, we have failed at sustainability. We must acknowledge that we are not meeting the needs of the present very well. The ability of future generations to meet their needs has already been compromised, and the environment we sought to preserve is already severely damaged. It's time for something else. So what should we do now? Our challenge now is this: 1, to adapt to the changes that have already occurred, what we call resiliency. 2, design the built environment in a way that begins the process of restoration, regenerative design. And 3, think about reusing everything as nature does: buildings, materials, water, energy, and others. That's the circular economy. In a presentation for the Philippines last year, I spoke about the waves of ecological design in our profession and used this graphic to explain them. When I began my career as an architect a few decades ago, we spoke about solar architecture. You see that as the yellow piece over on the left side of the screen. That was succeeded by sustainability in the late 1980s. And I believe that now regenerative design has already begun to replace sustainability. And an interesting aspect of that is that the circular economy has emerged as a very important and critical piece of regenerative design. And that's what we'll be talking about here. At Cunningham, we started the transition from sustainability to regenerative design in 2019. That's when my title changed to reflect the difference. Our ultimate goal is regeneration of the environment through design. In our practice, key elements of regenerative design are here. Number 1, lead by example. 2, reuse buildings and sites. 3, preserve habitat and ecology. 4, eliminate fossil fuel use. 5, respect water. 6, reduce embodied carbon. And finally, think circular economy. We've been monitoring our own carbon emissions since 2018, and recently we committed to offsetting all of our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions and much of our Scope 3 emissions. This is an example of what I mean by leading by design. As design firms, we have a responsibility to set the standard. This chart shows our own emissions from internal operations at Cunningham. We measure it in metric tons of CO2 equivalent per employee per year. And what you can see is since we started measuring in 2018 to right now, we've had a 61% reduction, which we're proud of, That reduction is enabling us now to offset the remainder so that we will be a zero carbon company by the end of this year. The second thing is reusing buildings and sites. And most of our offices at Cunningham are in older buildings. Many of them used to serve completely different purposes. This is a photograph of our office in Phoenix, which used to be a bank building, but it makes a wonderful office for us. Another reuse project I'd like to show you is called Art Space. It's in Minnesota. It's a former industrial area that we are redesigning for a large housing complex. I believe most of our work in the future will be reusing existing buildings and sites rather than building new. And the environmental impact of reusing things like this is far less than building new would be. On each site we design, and this is number 3 now, preserve habitat and ecology, we seek to preserve or recreate habitat. An example is the Wakan Teepee site on the Mississippi River in Minnesota. In the photograph you see here, that bottom edge, that is the Mississippi River as it goes through the city of St. Paul. This land was a very special place for Native Americans. It included mounds, but it was badly damaged by the operations of railroad companies. The project we're designing there that's under construction now is designed to restore access to those lands and to provide a place to learn about them. It's an excellent example of restoring the land back the way it was in large part. Another project is a large software company headquarters in Wisconsin. There we built a large 14,000-seat auditorium, but we didn't want to lose the prairie grass that had been there for a very long time. So in response, we built the auditorium underground and restored the prairie on the roof. That large green area you're seeing in the center of the photograph is actually directly above the auditorium you saw on the previous slide. One final example is a house in Colorado. The owners had been restoring the short grass prairie there that was almost lost from 100 years of cattle grazing. After 20 years, they are succeeding. Native plants and animals are returning. These images show the difference in vegetation over the last 15 years. We have learned that if you give nature a chance, it is resilient. I'm especially interested in the issue of designers putting buildings on land that has not been previously developed, what we call greenfields. This map shows where farmland has been lost to development in the United States in the last 20 years. A little more than half the total land area of the United States has already been developed or is under the direct control of human operations. I believe that should be enough. I don't know the facts on land use in China, but from looking at this map of land use, it may be similar to the United States. As designers, we must stop using and converting land. We need instead to restore land to its natural condition. I believe designers should only agree to build on greenfields when the client commits to restoring or preserving an equal area of habitat elsewhere and in the same bioregion. This is a map of the bioregions in the United States. It's very easy to find out what bioregion a property is in. Next is eliminate fossil fuel use. Number 4, our goal is to use no fossil fuel at our projects and to reach net zero energy. An example is this school in Colorado. It's all electric and it will be net zero energy when the solar panels are installed. After we took natural gas out of the heating and cooling systems, though, we still had to find ways to remove it from the cooking that happened in the kitchens and the science labs. Fortunately for the project, the cook and the science teachers worked with us to make that happen. So there is no fossil fuel on this property. Back at the software company in Wisconsin, we use 4 renewable energy sources: geoexchange wells in the earth, thermal exchange pond that I'm highlighting right here on the site plan, and both wind turbines and many thousands of solar panels. As a combination, a result of that combination of those 4 sources, the campus is net zero energy most of the time and uses very little fossil fuel. In many parts of the US, as across the planet, water is becoming a scarce commodity. This is our number 5, respect water. The southwestern US, where many Cunningham offices are located, is in a 22-year drought. We know we have to conserve water. In response, we have begun modeling water use on our projects, just as we began modeling energy use on our projects years ago. On the right side of the screen, you're seeing a typical water model for one of our projects. Our long-term goal is net zero water, but many of our projects, we haven't been able to achieve that yet. We are, for now, minimizing water use inside our buildings and on the site. An excellent example of respecting water in a dry climate is this recent building for the Denver Water Board in Denver, designed by a company, Stantec. It uses a concept called One Water, which combines gray water, rainwater harvesting, and other creative technologies. Number 6, reduce embodied carbon. It's important for us to think about the carbon emissions due to the materials we use, and we hope to achieve zero embodied carbon soon. In this project in Aspen, we used wood structure and other materials to reduce embodied carbon, quite significantly, in fact. One of the things I'd like to share with you is visible in the photo on the right. These light fixtures that you see aren't made out of plastic, nor aluminum, nor steel. In fact, they are made out of simple cardboard or paper. Now, number 7, the circular economy. The circular economy represents a different way to think about how we relate to the world. In the old linear model, this is the diagram that we use. First, we would take a material from nature, then we would make it into a material or resource, and then at the end of the life of that product or building, it became waste. That is becoming impossible to do as we're running out of materials. This is the circular economy. The idea is that waste is continuously turned into something new. We design waste out of the system. The circular economy has 5 key principles, which are shown here: circular supply, resource recovery, life extension, sharing platforms, and product as service. We've created a toolkit to better explore the circular economy and made it publicly available. I'd like to invite you to explore it, and I'll leave this on the screen for a few seconds so that you can take a look at that, write it down, or come back and find it later. We would very much appreciate it if you would look at this toolkit and offer us your comments. We have also put together a brief video to demonstrate how it works. There are 3 key components: discover, evaluate, and resources. We're going to look at discover first. This lets you understand what are the basic strategies that might be applied. Each of the 4 categories has many options and also examples of those options. We also allow you to suggest additional resources that we'll look at and possibly include in a future version of the toolkit. Next, you can evaluate a project. If you have a project in design, you can use the toolkit to determine how circular your project is. You can see the tool is going through a variety of different strategies that may apply to a project. And again, we have an option for you to provide comments to us to improve the tool. At Cunningham, we're seeking ways to eliminate waste in all of our projects. At this school in Minnesota, all the materials are recycled, composted, or, as you can see in the slide on the right-hand side, that photo, they are turned into heat to fuel the building. This is a case where we have a building that has almost no waste leaving the site. So here's the big question. Can we take all of these 7 principles and apply them at a single project to achieve truly regenerative design? And the answer is yes, and I have 2 examples that I'd like to share with you. The first one is this college for Native Americans in South Dakota. The project is called Sisseton-Wahpeton. This is the regenerative master plan. It includes a path to reusing all the existing buildings. It includes net zero energy, net zero water, habitat prairie restoration, and strategies for waste reduction and elimination. This is a slide that explains the particular approach to just the habitat and ecosystem. So in this case, we are planning to restore an additional 2 acres of prairie, which will sequester more carbon underground in the roots. We are proposing to add an additional 50 trees to also sequester carbon. And finally, we plan to convert some roofs to green roofs. So that's the summation of our strategies around habitat. This is a slide that summarizes approach to renewable energy. This campus already has 1 wind turbine, so we're proposing to double that to 2 wind turbines. And we have 3 different ways to apply solar panels on the property, on the roof, on the ground, and as canopies. And this is a graphic that shows the existing buildings and how those many different strategies would be applied and located. Here you can see, located in blue, there are even cisterns to collect rainwater. And I'd like to share one final example of applying regenerative design to an actual project. This is another development for a Native American group, also in South Dakota. It includes housing of many types, multifamily and single family, a school, a community center, farms, and many businesses. It's designed to be economically and environmentally self-sufficient. The regenerative master plan includes energy, water, wastewater, habitat, and resiliency, but it even includes an extra component around agriculture. This community wants to grow as much of their own food as they can. It is designed to be in harmony with the land, just as the original inhabitants of this land were long ago. Thank you, and I invite you to send any questions to my email address, which is shown on the slide. Thank you.